This is Sybert signing in to Pipeline Problems and Tiberium Wars for the July 1v1 random-only tournament semifinal B. We've already taken a look at semifinal A. You can check that out if you like. But this is another best of 5 to decide who advances on to the finals. Whoops. In the north, we do indeed have our green GDI player. This is Luvaskot. And in the south, the red scrin, this is AdamLallana. Or AdamLallana? Or Adam is what I will most likely be calling him. As, once again, Pipeline Problems. This is the first map of both of these series. And, you know, lots of refineries over here on the right side. Ooh, actually going 4 refineries is our GDI player. Luvaskot getting that extra harvester. I feel like most of the time that I see this, it's just the 3 harvesters, but in this particular case, it's going to be quad harvester for both of these guys. I might be incorrect. Maybe most of the time it is actually quad harvester, and I just didn't quite realize it, but I feel like most of the time it's just triple harvester. However, crane openings on this map are extremely common and are, I would say, the norm for these matches. Heading into a best of 5 with these two guys, I am unsure of what to expect. I have not cast a lot of Tib Wars lately. I have not been really following the scene. I'm not sure what these guys are going to be bringing to the table. I don't know if these games are going to be good, or if they're going to be alright, or what's going to happen. But I do know that the finals should be pretty interesting to watch, since we already know one of those players. I won't say anything just yet, in case some of you haven't seen those games. But Scrin v GDI, personally, I always prefer to play on the GDI side of things. Just tend to find GDI a little bit easier to play is probably the best way to put it. APC Engineer going to be heading out. One of them needs to, reverse move back and grab that Engineer. He's leaving his buddy behind. And that's, of course, no fun when you leave your friends behind and just peace out on them without, inviting them to whatever APC engineer capping party you're going to be going to. Towers in the center, most likely not actually going to be the target of these APCs. Not actually sure where the other APC is. It's split off down the right side of the map. I would actually be surprised if he grabbed that expansion point. Not very often do you see a player legitimately go for that expansion point. It's not all that useful considering how easy base pushing and base creeping is in Tib Wars. It's more likely that you're going to be, trying to capture one of your opponent's buildings, looking for the shutdown on a piece of important tech or something like that. A couple of buzzer hives going to be going down, but has Luvaskot successfully... Nope, he has not successfully really distracted his opponent. Adam is going to be paying attention on a couple of fronts. The Engineer goes down inside of the APC for that one. And that third APC Engineer, I'm not actually sure where it ended up getting split off to. That's a lot of secret tanks being pumped out for Adam. He is, of course, going to have to deal with quite a few pred tanks of his opponent. And, of course, potentially, eventually, railguns on the docket for Luvaskot. Buzzer Swarm gets called in. First couple of Rifleman squads getting absolutely shredded. And, I mean, Rifleman squad's not going to be that useful, but that extra bit of gun damage does add up over time against the Seeker tanks. The Pred tanks and the Rocket Troopers are more of what you have to deal with. And, of course, now that most of the Rifleman squads are gone, the Buzzers would have had an easier job actually cleaning up Rocket squads, but all of the Buzzers have pretty much been eliminated. As Luvaskot going to be pushing on forward, Pred tanks and Rocket Troopers going to be making a potent recipe for just Seeker tanks to deal with. A couple of Buzzer squads may be needed to be called in, but I think it's actually just the one Buzzer squad at this point, which gets killed pretty darn quickly, and the front line for Adam is starting to crumble. He's got the Lightning Spike there to do that extra bit of DPS to help him hold the line, but Luvaskot has got his economy starting to get up and roaring, which of course means there's going to be lots more GDI production on his doorstep. I'm actually kind of surprised we're not seeing a more bigger use of Tier 3, as this War Factory is not pumping out Juggernauts, at least not just yet. although we may need to see that move into a higher tech unit or two relatively soon. Dev Tank's going to be tearing their way through a couple of these Pred tanks, and of course that Annihilator tripod, the DPS that it adds, is invaluable for Adam. He's been able to secure himself economically, and he could try to push forward, although I don't know how successful he would actually be considering the extremely limited number of units that he actually has at his disposal. He's going to have to bulk up and macro a bit more before he actually moves out and is able to kill off Luvaskot, as Luvaskot doesn't need to move forward and end the game just yet. He too just needs to sit back a bit and macro up. Storm Rider for the Scout going to be heading all over the place, and the first couple of Mammoth tanks are indeed out. I think Railguns is most likely what's being researched there in that tech center. It's not up quite just yet. Storm Rider is going to be doing a bit of harassment, but there should be enough rocket squads here to deal with the Storm Riders, as he's trying to kill off the Predator tanks. He won't actually be able to kill them off, at least not just yet. And another Storm Rider going to be trying to pick a fight with a couple of Mammoth tanks, which probably won't work out too well for that Storm Rider. He's circling around, waiting for death. Pred tanks and rocket troopers starting to move in with the assistance of those Mammoth tanks. Devastator warship in the air, going to be able to rain down a fair bit of damage onto these units. Annihilator tripods making a strong defense thus far, and they will be able to hold the line with the help of that Devastator warship. Luvaskot getting pushed back a little bit, but in come the Firehawks. Very powerful anti-air indeed for Luvaskot to just clean up that artillery in the sky. Anti-air battery on the front line is also going to be very nice for Luvaskot. On the back end, railguns have been completed, and he is going pretty much just full out with these Mammoth tanks. Not a whole lot else on the docket for him. Most of the Tiberium on the map is just right in this kind of center lane, or on this lane in the right side near the center of the map. Unfortunately, not a lot of juggernauts to contend the sort of artillery war that could be happening here with these two players. The expansion point actually taking a bit of damage there. And first storm column is down. Luvaskot, can he actually make this work? He's gotten pretty darn close to just pushing forward and taking this game, but can he make it actually work? Devastator warships trying to push forward. Shock troopers now on the front lines with these first couple of buzzer swarms. They're going to be pushing forward and leading the charge of nothing really at this point. Firehawks coming in, dropping bombs on potentially that tier 3. Not actually sure what that was. And this is a lot of Mammoth tanks right on the front line as that Harvester is doing a little dance of happiness, trying to figure out where exactly he's supposed to go. Firehawks once again going to be coming in on the left side, turning away, potentially need to swap out their bombs for missiles or something like that. Stasis chamber going to be coming down, locking down a couple of those Mammoth tanks, but reinforcements also being called in. It looks like sniper teams to help deal with these shock troopers, as unfortunately for Luvaskot, he doesn't have a whole lot left here on the front lines, and Adam is starting to push the issue. He's starting to push forward and actually make some headway. These Mammoth tanks going to be coming back online. It looks like about 5 of them pretty much immediately under assault, as someone take a screenshot and use that for the box art. That's what this is looking like right now, as one tripod does go down, but 2 or 3 Mammoth tanks being eliminated extremely quickly there. And Adam may not be able to be stopped as Luvaskot is trying to mount the defense. Sniper teams firing rounds into the shock troopers to thin out the herd. It might be barely just enough to deal with this as more and more Mammoth tanks pressing on forward. And Adam, can he keep the offense up? Can he keep the reinforcements coming in? It's mostly just shock troopers at this point, as Buzzer Swarm was called down to deal with the sniper teams. They've pretty much all been eliminated, which means it's mostly down to the Mammoth tanks trying to choose their target, which they want to focus on. Firehawks once again going to be coming in, going for a bombing run, completely ignoring the front line, as they're going to be going to probably strike down, I'm assuming, tech, as instead of going for the Devastator warships at this point, they're just going to be looking to potentially cut down the reinforcements of Adam. Engineers onto the front lines, trying to capture and recapture those husks one after another to try to recycle as much of the army as he can, but the front line has been broken, and a stalemate has possibly ensued here, as only a couple of mammoth tanks actually survived the fight. It looks like about 3 on the front line. The sonic emitter also here, but of course that's not really good in an offensive situation from that far away. Shock Trooper's going to be moving forward, and they might actually be able to deal with this few mammoth tanks, not necessarily with the cover of that sonic emitter, because the splash damage will indeed tear through those infantry units. Rifleman squads also on the front line, going to be helping out against those shock troopers. Harvesters, not really the most important at this point, just because there's not a whole lot of Tiberium left, and both of these players need to make a lot happen with very little. It's not necessarily going to take very much to tip the scales one way or the other, but every unit does indeed count. Every unit does indeed matter, and that one Rifleman squad, they were brave soldiers. They were brave boys, or something like that. They were trying to do what they could, but they weren't quite able to make it work. And now the stalemate is neither player really has enough money to macro up another, like, a big army, and neither one of the players has really the army to just move forward and kill the other guy. If Luvaskot could get a bit more anti-infantry to mix in with his army, just to make sure that the shock troopers aren't really able to overwhelm and surround mammoth tanks, he should be fine. If there was a lot of air units, or like 16 Storm Riders, something like that, Adam would have a much better chance. But of course, at this point, it's going to be a bit difficult for Adam to genuinely make something happen. And now that the Storm Column is gone, there's not a whole lot left for Adam to really use as defense. He's got some Storm Riders, which can be, or he's got some Shock Troopers, which can be dealt with by the Rifleman squads and the APCs. And then the Mammoth tanks can pretty much deal with everything else. Firehawks, again, making bombing runs, trying to just level whatever the heck they can. Could also end up going after power plants if it gets into a situation where base defenses are keeping Adam in the game. He doesn't... I'm not actually sure what his plan is here. He's just building gravity stabilizers or airfields. He's just sort of base creeping his way forward, but no single base defense. Like, he'd need, you know, triple drone ship or something like that to actually be able to make something like this work against these mammoth tanks. 6 mammoth tanks, 7 mammoth tanks on the front line, and of course railgun mammoth tanks even better. I'm not actually sure what Adam's plan is. I could kind of understand it if he was actually building stuff from these, but these gravity stabilizers just aren't doing anything. And he drops another one right in the face. I'm assuming this is like a weird way of GGing. He's just like, come kill me, I'm wasting all my money. Her. He had like a small chance there. We're back when he actually had Annihilator tripods, but Adam has been defeated. Game number 1 will go to Luvaskot, and he gains that first bit of momentum, that first edge against his opponent. Able to make the kind of comeback happen as he was getting close to the edge there, but he just had enough mammoth tanks sitting back, waiting to come to the front lines to make it out. And that will do it for game number 1. Game number 2 is coming right up. Game number 2 takes us to Tournament Tower, as we have spawning on the left side, the red screen player. This is Adam. Once again, and on the right side, the blue GDI. It's random only, but it's a rematch from that last game in terms of the factions. This is Luvaskot. And I'm guessing Luvaskot is very happy based on how that last game went, on the fact that he did indeed get the same faction over again. And of course, this is Tournament Tower. It's probably going to be coming down to some engagement near the center of the map. But 2 Tib spikes. We also have seen some games that that were decided by counterattacks on the north and the south side of the map. Of course, like many competitive RTS games, they've got the classic 3-lane structure coming up. War Factory down, and sometimes players just like to creep up to the high ground and then try to focus their, 2 or 3 War Factories or whatever they end up going for up here, and then just kind of negate the lower ground for, for their other stuff. Double APC Engineer, Luvaskot, bringing the shenanigans. Once again, they didn't really work out too well last game. He tried to go for a War Factory, got killed. The other engineer didn't actually make it out of the APC, got killed off. Can Adam do it once again? That's kind of the question here, as the MCV is on the move. One of these APCs may just very well be split off over here to capture that spike in the north. The other one is heading pretty much straight through the middle of the map, not even like trying to head around south to sneak by anything. He's like, nah, I'm going to double play this guy. He's going to be sending seeker tanks along the south, hoping that that's where my APC engineer is. But I'm too clever for that. Oh, actually, a couple of descent squads here going to be trying to clean up this APC. We'll keep an eye on that one, while one of them in the south going to be trying to go for that refinery. No, it will end up getting sniped. The engineer goes down. Descents all get eliminated, and that engineer is free to jump inside of that tib spike. A nice capture there by Luvaskot will grant him that additional income, as there is going to be the refinery on the high ground getting thrown down for both players. Of course, War Factories pumping out those MBTs behind that. Lots of Predator tanks, lots of Seeker tanks are indeed expected in this game. Why? Because I can see into the future. That's why I know that. I don't have a very basic understanding of Tib Wars or anything. I can see into the future, folks. That's why you're here. Probably. For my majestic future-seeing abilities. And for anyone who's watching for the first time, that probably just sounded incredibly egotistical. That's alright, I probably have some sort of subconscious complex, which is highly narcissistic. That's neither here nor there. I'm not actually sure why we're discussing my subconscious mental problems. War Factory on the front line, and once again, the Seeker Tank Assault is going to be underway. There's the repair drones being called in. Adam, is he going to be microing back those weakened Seeker tanks for that extra bit of survivability? It looks like the answer thus far is going to be no. With Predator tanks being pumped out directly onto the front lines, you kind of expect the GDI player to be the one winning in the long run. Luvaskot pulling back one of the Predator tanks. As you can see, he draws 2 Seeker tanks forward, and the Predator tank survives anyway, so nice play by Luvaskot. Not quite as nice of a play by Adam. He won't quite be able to just win that early engagement. And now he's going to have to deal with these Pred tanks on his front door. Maybe if he had some descents coming around the side or something like that, this would be even easier. But for now, he's mostly going to have to hold with whatever dev tanks he can push out onto the front lines. And unfortunately for that one Pred tank, he didn't quite get the memo. He needed to check his email, but he didn't have mobile notifications, because you know that he had insert name of competing wireless company here, and their service just isn't very good in this general area. Their tower is a bit further away than the other company. You know, there's a shock trooper inside of that APC. Not something you see very often. Engineer inside of, I'm guessing, the technology assembler, ended up grabbing that, selling it off, and then it was indeed able to grab that shock trooper thrown inside of the APC. A nice move there by Luvaskot, most likely going to be shutting down that tier 3 production of his opponent, stopping those avatars, stopping any, well, avatars, Annihilator tripods rather, stopping any, tier 3, no, he doesn't actually have a gravity stabilizer, so nothing like that would be on the way. Pred tanks and APCs, a classic combo moving forward for Luvaskot. He does have a fair few number of units on the front lines. If he focus fired a little bit better, he may be able to break through, but it would indeed be costly. Decides to pull on back and is going to just wait for more reinforcements. Main field has pretty much completely dried up. The same cannot be said for Adam. He's just going to be holding on a little bit longer to that Tiberium. He's harvested a bit more of this field. And of course, once this initial wave of Tiberium is all dried up, these guys could be looking at a bit of another stalemate, much like the last game. And that one did not turn out very well for Adam. Once those mammoth tanks were out with railguns, it was a bit of a different tune. Getting railguns, once again, would still be highly beneficial. And Luvaskot does indeed have Tier 3. It's back here. Orca's also going to be moving out, deciding to go with Orcas instead of the Firehawks this particular time. Railguns will most likely be finishing up in a couple of moments, which is probably what Luvaskot is waiting for before engaging. He did indeed call down Orcas additionally. There's not a whole lot of anti-air here other than the Storm Column, so these initial Orcas will be able to do a bit of damage, but he is trading them out a bit cost ineffectively, and at any moment, Railguns will most likely be finishing. The attack may be timed a little bit too early as the upgrade kicks in right there, and suddenly this force just got a whole lot stronger. Dev tanks doing what they can to pick away at the kind of northern edge of this army, but with constant mammoth tank reinforcement, this is going to be a difficult attack to break. It is technically possible, but it's going to be difficult for Adam to actually hold the line. And with no reinforcements directly pumped out onto the front lines, he's got a little bit too late with the shock troopers just now going to be popping on out, as Adam basically giving up the ghost. In game number 2, barring an incredible miracle like a mastermind with just too much to play. And that mastermind did not have incredible plays, because the MCV is over here as he drops a refinery in the face of his opponent, claiming his old Tiberium and claiming that victory, as Adam will be dropping down 0-2 in this best-of-5 training account, aka Luvaskot, able to take it up the first 2 games for that victory. Can he close it out? A clean sweep would land him very nicely into the finals to fight against the other player who is waiting for him. But Adam needs to kick it into high gear right here, right now. He's up against the wall. This is all it takes. And game number 3 takes us to pipeline problems, where in the north, as the Skrin, we do indeed have the man who's up 2-0. This is Luvaskot, looking for that quick 3-0 victory to head into the finals, while in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the man who needs your cheers. He needs to make the comeback happen right here, right now. This is Adam. Red GDI finally getting rid of that Skrin color, or that Skrin faction, and he's going to be making his way over to the good old humans, as some people do like GDI a bit more than Skrin. It all comes down to personal preference, and of course Skrin, super cool alien faction, but not necessarily the favorite for players to use, especially in tournament settings. GDI is considered a pretty darn strong faction, although certainly under the hands of the right player, any of these factions can easily be used for victory. First Rifleman squad going to be going for the targeting down of that Descent. Almost going to be killing off the entire Descent squad before being eliminated. Hasn't actually bought enough time for this outpost to be established, because the outpost really just needs to be up for a couple of seconds so a refinery can be placed down, and then that build radius will be enough to secure a watchtower. Go ahead and kill off the Descent squad. There's the watchtower, but he needs something to actually... No, he doesn't need something to establish build radius. That Descent squad went down incredibly quickly to that watchtower. A very nice play here by Adam. Just enough time to get that up and running and get it underway to save that outpost. And of course, any map in Tib Wars with Blue Tiberium, it is going to be a focal point of the standard early game. A couple of harvesters heading over for Luvaskot. What is his plan as Skrin going to be? That's kind of my question. How is he going to try to play this? Of course, if he goes for those Seeker tanks, the early assault has not been working out for Adam, so Luvaskot may be able to learn a bit from that, or maybe he's got a different way of approaching early Seeker tank attacks. He, of course, might just wait for a bit of a bigger clash near the middle of the map, because a lot of the time it comes down to engagements near these green fields. And the fact that Adam is GDI also lends him to a bit of a potential taste of Luvaskot's own medicine, if that makes sense. APC engineers is what I'm alluding to, and Adam may be able to make it work. you know, just like, hey, you know what, you've been APC engineering me throughout this game, I'm going to go ahead and do it to you, as Luvaskot grabs back that tib spike. So briefly, Adam did indeed control both of those tib spikes, and Luvaskot going to be able to secure that for himself very nicely. Pitbull's rolling up to the expansion. There's already a lightning spike here, and hey, what the heck, might as well drop a portal as well, as Luvaskot is like, I need some forces out here, some descents and secret tanks to help me deal with these Pitbulls, to be able to clean them up, and goodbye one Pitbull for sure. The other Pitbulls might end up being eliminated as well, as more and more secret tanks actually going to be coming in, trying to get a better angle of attack in, and this last Pitbull is indeed doomed. It gets completely destroyed there. And Missile Squad going to be heading out for the defense. Adam doesn't want to be giving up this blue tib early. He doesn't want to be losing any real opportunities there. APC Engineer could be going for the crane, although that may not be the best target if he can help it. Oh, whoa, that engineer. Oh, no, he was still in range. What a mistake. A classic change of decision in the middle of a moment, and Adam has flummoxed that. He has absolutely wrecked his own decision-making as Descent's chasing down one of those Predator tanks. They go elite. One of those Descent squads going fully elite before killing off a second Pred tank, and a third Pred tank will most likely go down. Of course, running over Descent always has a bit of a risk with it. One last Pred tank does not go down. A couple of them below that half-health mark, but for now, Luvaskot has not managed to do any of that game-winning damage to Adam. He's trying to find an alternate angle of attack. He's trying to find a better way to use his secret tanks than Adam did in the previous games. Luvaskot, he's up 2-0. He can afford to drop a game here or there, but of course, no one playing a competitive event thinks to themselves, oh, no, I'm totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this game. No, they want the 3-0. They want to get the all-kill. They want to move on to the finals with ease and with that kind of on their back. So, would not expect anything less than his best from Luvaskot. Focusing down the tib spike, definitely going to be useful. Virtually never a bad idea to just kill off that tib spike. There's almost no situations where it's actually worse to kill the tib spike than to not kill it. And in this particular case, he's not quite going to be able to finish it off, as a large number of Predator tanks actually going to be closing in on that location. Armory directly onto the front line. Composite armor has not been purchased just yet. It may actually be what that's for. And of course, you can also utilize it to call down sniper teams and that sort of thing, or to call in sniper teams. Get himself some nice sniper teams, potentially, if there's a big shock trooper switch. Shock troopers feel like coming back a bit more into popularity. Tib spike goes down eventually. Luvaskot will have his revenge. A couple of rocket squads going to be trying to clean up this storm column, but really the rocket squads are not quite a match for the storm column. At least not just the 3 rocket squads that were there. You need a couple more at least. And Luvaskot really playing this patiently. He's up to the Devastator warships. He's got Annihilator tripods cranking out. He's not just, trying to sacrifice all of his secret tanks for nothing. He is going in once again for a bit of a distractionary move, and this would actually be a really good opportunity for Luvaskot to move in on the front lines. He's got pretty much all of the Predator tanks pulled back away from the more important areas of defense, as actually, there's going to be the cap of that MCV, the sell-off pretty much immediately as the engineer gets sniped very nicely by Adam. But of course, now he's going to be moving in directly onto the front lines. There are not going to be base defenses getting plopped down with any sort of speed, as without that MCV, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Secret tanks in the north trying to clean up the harvest, but really they're just distracting those Pred tanks. That is one kind of a magnet in the north. They're completely pulling the army out of position to allow the absolute decimation of Adam's front lines, just the crushing of that open door as Luvaskot very easily breaking through that defense. An absolute crushing last few minutes by Luvaskot. His training account is maybe a little bit too strong for Adam, and Adam not able to make it happen. That Woo, those last couple of minutes, like, hey, the Pred tanks are, I mean, that's a fair amount of secret tanks, but you don't need that many Predator tanks. Oh, there's no defense at the front. 4 rocket squads? Ooh. And then there's, like, of course, a million shock troopers and so many Annihilator tripods. Very well played by Luvaskot. He will be meeting up in the finals with the other player. I mean, at this point, if you made it through this video, just go watch the other semifinals. Thank you all very much for watching. We're going to be jumping into the finals best of 7 just after this. And of course, this is Sybert signing out.